I think the biggest problem is that folks aren't in the network. It's not easy to break into this network if you are not a from Silicon Valley somehow, didn't go to the right exact school, didn't get into the right incubator or this or that, like those type of things. It's super difficult to just even get that first opportunity to get invited to the whatever the networking thing
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah.
takes years.
Yeah. It does.
And
To be
so,
on people's short list. Like I'll text Shannon
yeah.
if I need a quote for my news article or whatever, right? Yeah, it takes a long time. So what advice would you give to a woman in tech who might want to be pursuing a career in the C-suite or in board work?
I say this to a lot of people. Not only are you going to have to continue to network, and I meet people who are like, well, I don't really like to do that. I'm like, you don't have a choice. This is how this works. And so you have to go out, and sometimes you have to go out for long periods of time before you get that first connection that then leads you to Julie, who then Julie picks up the phone. But what I will say, like, for example, I probably was in one of the first board readiness programs that How Women Lead
Yep.
did. I don't know if
Yep.
it was the first, but very early
Yeah, it
on.
sure was. Yeah.
And I remember at that time being told that, like, this board journey can be quick. There are some people that it's quick for, but the vast majority of people, this is about being consistent, telling everybody you want to be on a board, and then putting in the work. And it could take quite a while
Yes.
for that to happen. Don't get discouraged, but just understand that that's the process. And so when people look up now and they're like, oh my gosh, you're on this and you're on that and you're on this, I'm like, you don't understand the
What
7,
it
8
took to
years.
get there, right?
You don't
Right.
understand
Yeah.
how long that
Uh-huh.
took. So I say to people, that is the process. Understand the process, and then really spend that time trying to develop your, I call it your personal board of directors,
Yeah.
but those people that can help you along the way. Too many of us get into these companies and think there's a formal mentor program at my company, and that's what I'm going to
That's
use.
what I'm
I
gonna
mean,
do.
that's
Yeah.
one thing you
Uh-huh.
should
Yeah.
use. There's
Yeah.
so many other programs you should be
Yeah.
using.
So it sounds like that's good advice for women who are sort of in the workplace and going up the ladder. If you were to look at the beautiful young hopeful Shannon at 21 years old, what advice would you give her?
At 21, and maybe things may be different now because people have social media and the internet and things of that nature, so you probably have a little bit better access. But I can't say that I dreamed big at 21. I
Yeah.
think I would tell her to start dreaming bigger. And I think it was more because just not networked, not access. You don't know what you don't know, not exposed, right? To even knowing, what is board service. I got super fortunate around that time at 21 to hear someone speak. Her name was Ann Fudge, and she was African American. She's still alive, African American executive, had a lot of
Yeah.
big roles with Kraft, like all kinds of amazing companies. And she was on a board. And during her speech, she talked about board service. I had no clue what she was talking about, zero clue. But I remember saying, I need to look that up. And then I need to figure out how one does that because she seems so passionate. And she looks like me, by the way, in the sense of like Black
Yeah.
woman, like
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe I could achieve this. I would say dream big at 21. Why? And
Mhm.
so one things I want to do is to have that be normal for 21-year-old, especially women.
Yeah. And to see a woman like you. So you are actually, you do so many things, but you are also using the medium of film. Like
Yeah.
you are now moving into a whole other interesting realm as a producer. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what happened for me when I left my big corporate job and was doing more with the therapies with my son, et cetera, I started working with smaller organizations. And at the time we lived in Los Angeles, and a lot of the business industry there is production, film, entertainment, et cetera. So I started working more with those type of companies.
Yeah.
And that exposure exposed me to the medium of the media, digital mediums, et cetera, those type of companies, how they actually operate. that's how I kind of got exposed to kind of storytelling, because I was working for those companies. And then along the while, wound up making my own. I made a film. I produced a film with some amazing women, and it was about autism in the Black community in particular. And it did really well. It was a documentary. Wound up going to Cannes. We won at the American Pavilion. We sold it to a Viacom to BET, and they showed it a lot, and it did really well. So having that experience, I already knew, like, when you get a good story and no one's really telling it, one way to really move people is through this medium. And so I know you know Merlene Centil, who's the co-founder of Black Women on Boards. We have a project that we're producing that's coming out later in 2023, and it is about board diversity. And again, I feel like, just like I felt like the doc on autism, I feel like it's really going to move some needles and add some much needed exposure to the topic.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for transferring that sort of love and passion and fun personal project into something that's going to have such a ripple effect. We need to see you. So the 21-year-old that's coming up sees Shannon and Merlene and all these powerful women. So magnificent. So you've talked a little bit about your family. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, quite a few of us who reach the level that you've reached. They have interesting family situations where, you trade off who's in the driver's seat, or, do you have any unique sort of family dynamics that others could sort of learn from or might resonate with?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been married for 26 years. I have we have three sons. Two are adults now. One is still in high school, almost done, almost empty nesters. But I will say, over 26 years, there has been lots of seasons and trade-offs, career trade-offs, moves for the other person's career, taking a different type of job because it's more supportive of, just lots of trade-offs. And that's where that my attitude has always been, this is a marathon. This is not a quick race. So there were seasons in my life where it was helpful that maybe I was doing a certain type of job or role that wasn't as demanding, because my family life could not have supported it.
Yeah.
And then there are other seasons where it's like, hey, I'm about to swing for the fences in this role, and my family life is fine because of these other things. There was never a time where, to this day, where I felt like, and I'm just smooth sailing. I don't actually feel like that's ever happened in life. Even with adult kids and one that's still in high school, there's still always something that comes
Oh,
up that's
yeah,
like, whoa,
there sure is.
like literally the one that's in high school he's not driving yet. One day he was reaching out to me and my husband, like, who's gonna pick me up? And I think me and my husband were like, we were both at work. We were like, oh, nobody really figured out who was gonna pick him up today. Oops.
I know. Oops.
Right? Oh well, I hope he walks.
There
I
it
don't
is.
know what else to say.
There it is. Yep.
Just
Oh my
I
God,
didn't
how
get
fun.
Mother of the Year award that day. Like,
Oh, well, yeah, all of that. And, my kids don't remember any of that stuff. So
right.
you've got a baby to launch, one final baby to launch. You've got a film that's launching. You have unbelievable board roles that are both challenging and fun and, and high profile. What is next for you? What are we going to see from you going forward?
I think that what's important to me, I love my job. I love working at a company that's innovative, that is really doing some cutting edge technology, and we're scaling. I think that's a huge part of my focus, is really helping Wing get to like the next level. It keeps me very busy.